On this episode of Midnight Double Feature, Tiger King, Murder, Mayhem, and Madness, plus reviews for Spenser Confidential, Bloodshot, and The Platform. All this, and we'll see what else on this upcoming attractions episode of Midnight Double Feature. Zohev, how are we doing today?
Matthew. I am fine, dude. I am fine. I'm healthy. I have my sanity. How are you? How are you doing, my friend?
I'm surviving, and shouts to everyone out there who is also trying to make it through everything that's going on right now. A lot of us are spending a lot of time isolated, and that can get boring, but hopefully podcasts will help. I'm just realizing we said we wouldn't talk about this.
Yeah, I'm just gonna put it. No, that's fine. That's fine. I'm just gonna put it right up front straight. This is the only time we're gonna talk about the virus in this episode because I think we kind of approached this episode and we were like, all right, man, there's so much shit out there. And everyone's depressed, and it's not good times in society. And people are going to turn to the podcast and be like, "All right, look, let's escape for a little bit. Let's get some recommendations."
Until I come along and fuck it all up, because that's the first thing I fucking did.
Fuck, dude, you're like Zack Snyder. You're muting all the colors in this podcast right now. So, guys, thank you so much for joining us here in Midnight Double Feature. This is an upcoming attractions episode. We're going to be talking all things movie news, or lack thereof. We're going to be talking movie reviews. We're going to be chit-chatting about a series, which is something that we don't really do often, but wouldn't mind getting into that a bit more. And then we're going to be closing it off with our MDF game. If you're not familiar with our MDF games, we post a poll on our social media, mainly the After Party. So that's 3 words, the After Party. That's a Facebook group. And we always post a question, and it's always, what is your favorite blah? What is your favorite whatever? And this week was Matt's turn. This week we posted the poll, what is your favorite underrated movie? And I know we're going to get into some good conversations surrounding that really soon. We got some great community input from the After Party members, and that was really fantastic. I can't wait to talk about that. Can't wait to talk about that at all. Midnight Double Feature is our Facebook page. At Midnight Double Feature is our Instagram page. At MDF Pod is our Twitter handle. And if you want to review us, please do. We actually have a competition going on right now where you can win a free feature presentation episode dedicated solely to your movie choice. So if you rate and review us on iTunes and screenshot that review and email us at the email address midnightdoublefeature@gmail.com, you can go into the running to have your pick chosen as a feature presentation episode covered by myself, Colin, and possibly Matthew and possibly Danny. That's no promises on the last two, but definitely Colin and I. And, those episodes are hefty, right? The Silence of the Lambs episode we dedicated 3 hours to. These are always 2 hours plus. So we're going to give some lovin' to your movie if your movie gets chosen. So go ahead and rate and review us if you have not already. All right, Matt, let's get into our first item of today. Probably the only item of today besides our review and MDF game. Hit me.
Tiger King dropped on Netflix, and it's one of those... It's the best thing about Netflix is the promotion they give stuff and the memes that come out. And there's a lot of memes going around about Tiger King. It's creating a lot of splash. You've seen the whole show. I'm about 3/4 of the way through it. But I'm not really fussed on spoilers. I don't think most people are. A lot of them are already out there, especially because it's a documentary. It's based on reality. Actually, watching episode 5 today, I realized I was already aware of this guy. There's a clip from John. Yeah, John Oliver's Last Week Tonight. They did a bit based on him when he ran for the presidential election.
Right,
and
that's in the show as well.
Yeah, I watched that shit. And I just saw the clip and straight away was like, oh, it's that fucker. I remember him. I Googled him afterwards because he was interesting, and I completely forgot all about it because this was bit over 2 years ago, maybe it was 3 years. I can't remember. Yeah, what a bizarre character, right?
Dude, this, I'd never heard of him before. I'd never heard of Joe Exotic before. And like you said, with Netflix, it's interesting what they do with the promotion because it's not really Netflix making the memes, but the actual like advertising. I'd never heard of this docuseries being dropped on Netflix. Like, you know what I mean? I didn't know it was coming. And this is a thing that's happening with Netflix lately, right? I mean, like in the past few years, we've seen a rise in the amount of docuseries, mainly in the true crime genre.
Heaps.
That's like, you know, following in the success of Making a Murderer. That's the big one that kicked it off. I guess if you want to if you want to translate that to podcasting, then the amount of true crime podcasts are out there only because of Serial.
Which I hear that story in season 1 of Serial's becoming a Netflix doco. Have you heard anything about that? I swear I heard that like a while ago.
I haven't heard about it becoming a Netflix doco. I know it was on SBS. Like they've already made it and they've already aired it.
Okay,
like
maybe that was it.
That was a docuseries. SBS is the fucking what's it called, man? What does SBS stand for again? I can't remember. But anyway, it's an Australian channel. So I mean, I'm not sure where it is in the international circuit, but yeah. But yeah, the Case of Adnan Syed is the name of that show. You can go seek it out. I haven't seen it, but I heard good things about it. That first season of Serial is outstanding, by the way.
Yes.
But yeah, Tiger King. So having finished this show, it's a good show. It's a good docuseries as far as docuseries go. I've seen like plenty of these, by the way. Making a Murderer, Evil Genius, Don't Fuck with Cats. I think
Don't Fuck with Cats.
I was just about to say, I think my favorite is still Don't Fuck with Cats, only because of the way it tells its story and the things that they hold back, and when they decide to reveal things. You know, it's very
yeah, it's great narrative, it's great storytelling, but also I think I love how like they just kept the pacing going. Like it's only 3 episodes, but that's for the benefit of it. I think my biggest criticism of Tiger King so far is
7
how many episodes? It's like 7.
Yeah.
Did you say 7?
Yeah.
Okay, I think it could be like, I don't know, based on so far 5. Like
it
the
could
first
be 3.
couple episodes.
No, it could be 3. Like I mean,
Yeah?
it doesn't need to be 7. That was my big takeaway from it, because by the 7th one, I'm just like, fuck, seriously, we're still going.
Just the first few episodes, I feel like not a lot happens. Like they don't need to spend all that time setting up all the characters, and it really was dragging. So for a while, I was like, I'm gonna stop watching this shit. And then I'm like near the end of episode 5 now, and all this shit's happening, and I'm like, fuck, why didn't this happen 1 or 2 episodes ago? Like I would have been so much more on board if all this interesting shit was happening more sooner. Like there were other things, but episode 5 is like, there's a lot going on there.
I'll tell you what though, I do like the way this show plays with who you want to side with and who you should side with and who you shouldn't side with. Because by the end of this show, you don't really want to side with anyone. I'm just going to like lay that out there. It's not really a spoiler. Like, you know, as you're watching this show, you're kind of like you're in the shoes of like, okay, this Joe Exotic guy, he's obviously not that great, because in the first 10 minutes they tell you that he was responsible for a murder for hire and he got 79 years in prison. Like, you know?
Yeah.
And then like, you know, this Carol, what's her name? God damn it, I can't remember. Carol Baskin. Carol Baskin. Like, you know, she's kind of like painted as this like kind of like, you know, environmentalist savior kind of like person, but you know, come to find out in the next 2 or 3 episodes, that's not really the case. So it's really, I mean, you know, this being a docuseries, it's not tied to the overall kind of like narrative filmmaking that you get in fiction films, where you need to have a somewhat likable protagonist to be attached to someone. Because this being a docuseries, a true crime docuseries, you don't really need that. You can just tell this story and have the bad characters, you know, like it's good in that way, because it kind of keeps you on your toes, kind of keeps you guessing. Because as the show goes on, you'll find out that there are potentially worse people than Joe Exotic out there, like, you know, and it's
I don't know how it. Yeah, I don't know how it ends. So maybe once I finish it, I'll look back at this podcast and take back what I'm saying here. But so far, what I am realizing, some of the strengths of it though, is like what you're saying. Like they make you sort of switch sides every now and then. Like they'll do half an episode about how great this person is, and they'll show, oh, but actually they did something fucked up, and they'll do that back and forth. So it kind of feels like more than they're telling a story. It's more like watching like a court case unfold. because you're seeing different sides of an argument back and forth. There is progression to it, which is very slow. But while the reason it's slow is because they keep giving you all this extra kind of evidence or information. And funnily enough, I think when they get to like the legal stuff, that's actually some of the more interesting parts of the show. So like that structure of it, I do like it. It's just I wish it moved a bit faster through it. But yeah, you're right. Like a lot of these characters aren't likable, but they are entertaining, especially Joe Exotic. He sounds like a cartoon character. Like he's a gay redneck, which is like already an anomaly. A gay redneck who owns the world's biggest tiger park, and there's meth involved, and he's also just very charismatic, and he's very, I guess, right-wing speech where he just doesn't give a fuck, and he'll point guns at everybody and shit. Like, he sounds like a Batman villain, doesn't he?
Dude, yeah, he's so unstable.
Yeah. But it's entertaining. It's just like Trump, you know, without getting too political. Regardless of what you say, he's entertaining to watch because you have no idea what the fuck he'll do next.
Let's as you know, saying as you mentioned him, let's stay here. Like this is Donald Trump's, I guess, big kind of like audience, right? Middle America, like that's the thing.
Yeah,
so
you're probably right there.
Yeah, here we are, two Australians just sitting here, thousand miles away, and commenting on Middle America. So sorry, Colin. Sorry, Danny.
Because we obviously really relate to all that being from there and everything. Yeah.
Yeah. But not only that, man, like throughout this show, I'm feeling sorry for all the animals. Like, I mean, it's the animals that are the victims here. And you know, I think the doco gives a lot of insight into Joe Exotic, gives a lot of insight into Carol Baskin and like these other players that are a part of this story. It doesn't really give you a lot of sympathetic moments with the animals. It kind of does in passing, and it's not really. It's I guess it's very subtle. It's not very overt, but it's. I don't know. I feel like the doco should give a little bit more. I don't know. I would have preferred a little bit more sympathy for the animals, I think.
That's really interesting because I never thought of that, but it's a really good point because one way to really win over the emotions of a human being is to use an animal. And there's not many.
And that's what Joe Exotic and these guys were doing. Like, I mean, that was their livelihood, right? I mean, that's the way they made money. Yeah,
but us as audience members, they're not giving us that because they're focusing more on the people, which is a fair approach. Like, it's to which, you know, I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but it's interesting because like I recently just saw the scene where, minor spoilers, some alligators died from a fire. And I was like, fuck, they had alligators? I didn't even know because I don't think we barely even saw any footage of them. And like they didn't show a lot of like sadness. There was no like slow piano music playing over black and white footage. No, they just cut to like Joe sort of just screaming at people and then just went straight to the blame game on who's to blame for it, rather than us trying to have sympathetic moments with the alligators. And I think if this was a movie, like a narrative film, I would put a point against it because I'm like, dude, you're just skipping over a major emotional beat that drives the characters. But as a documentary, I think you have the freedom to choose to whether or not you want to do that. Yeah, it's a really interesting point.
Yeah, like it's a decent show, and I'd recommend it to anyone who's remotely interested in anything true crime. I mean, like obviously, if this pops up on my Netflix feed, then I'm immediately going to watch it because it's me. So, like it's kind of like right in my wheelhouse, but at the same time, it's not really like you don't really deal with the murder for hire stuff until like the final episode or the second last episode. The rest of it is kind of setting up these really zany and out there characters, man. And they are really fun and interesting to watch, and it kind of makes your like soul hurt a little bit, like knowing that these people are real people, you know.
And also, like, it's interesting again with their approach because it could have been very easy to turn this into like a comedy. You know, just throw some like funny music in there and just through editing choices. You could have made it comedic. They chose not to. They're treating it very serious, which is, you know, again, fair. They're dealing with some serious subject matter, especially towards the end. But yeah, it's a very interesting series in a way, which is why it's sort of thing kept me around. Because the true events are interesting. And in fact, this if you don't mind me going on a slight tangent, I think we have the time. Something I've noticed a lot lately with actual drama films based on true stories, which has always kind of annoyed me a bit, is some people will be like, oh, it's a powerful story. I can't believe that happened. Oh, it's so important. And like, yeah, but even so, that doesn't mean the movie's good, you know? And I really get annoyed when I see some reviewers, they spend half their review talking about like, I can't believe this actually happened. It's like, okay, but like judge the movie based on the movie, not like the shit that happened. But weirdly enough, I don't see people do that with documentaries. Like, it's either a good documentary or a bad documentary.
I mean, I guess it is subjective, right? I mean, like, if the movie is like, let's just use your analogy right now. If the movie can make an event emotional for someone, then that's the movie doing like succeeding. Like, you know what I mean? Like, if you divorce that from the actual event, and like someone comes away from that and being like, okay, like let's take Munich for example, right? The Steven Spielberg Munich. I don't know. It's the first thing. Oh, you know what? Let's take Patriots Day. We've both seen that, right? Patriots Day, Boston bombings. Like that was a horrifying event, obviously. But the movie, the way it shows that that event, and you know, not only that, but the aftermath of that crazy event, and then the way Boston ended up coming back stronger. You know, Boston strong. That movie plays on your emotions. Like it plays on the emotions of what came out of the Boston bombing. So
Yeah.
I think a movie can, you know, a lot of the times people can get wrapped up in the emotional element of what's happening in the true story. And if the movie is able to highlight that emotional element, then I think it's done its job.
Yeah, fair enough. And I think, yeah, you got a good point there too. Sorry for that tangent. It's been in my head for a while. I've been wanting an excuse to bring it up.
No, it's fine. Two points on Tiger King before we do move on. Carol Baskin, so she spoke out against the series, calling it, quote, salacious and sensational, and criticized the directors Eric Good and Rebecca Chaiklin. She stated the filmmakers lied about the nature of the series. According to Baskin, when they approached about the series, they told her they were going to be making, quote, the big cat version of Blackfish. Blackfish is obviously the very famous documentary. But yeah, like that's interesting, right? I mean, like, because by the end of it, she's not, I mean, like they kind of like shed a light on her, but she doesn't come off as bad as some other people like Jeff Lowe, for example.
Yeah, and I would say it's nothing like Blackfish. Like Blackfish is, from the get-go, they're very clear. It's like, oh, keeping whales in captivity is bad. Yeah. And her agenda the whole time has been, don't keep big cats in captivity. And that's not what this is about. It's more about the people rather than the cats and the effects.
Right, and that kind of goes to my point, right? I mean, like Blackfish was the documentary that was more about the well-being of the animals, right? And that's not really what this show's about. It's more about the human element.
Yeah. It completely changed SeaWorld and SeaWorld-like companies.
Yeah, absolutely. One final point. They are making a scripted film about this documentary, not based off this documentary. So there's only one person who's been cast, and it's Kate McKinnon as Carol Baskin. So Kate McKinnon from the 2016 Ghostbusters, from Saturday Night Live, Spy Who Dumped Me.
Bombshell.
Yeah.
I love Kate McKinnon, but she doesn't look like Carol.
No, she doesn't. I mean, she can put on, she can do some makeup shit. Like, I mean, if we've seen Christian Bale as Dick Cheney, then we can see her as Carol Baskin. So,
yeah. So, do you think the movie will be based more from Carol's perspective than Joe Exotic?
Well, here's the thing. I'm just reading this article here from InStyle. I don't know if that's credible, but I've seen this article a couple times anyway. It says it's not really based on the documentary Tiger King. It's instead using the Joe Exotic podcast as the source material. So
I didn't realize you had a podcast. Oh my God.
Neither did I.
It's probably just an audio rip from the web show, maybe.
Yeah, but it's likely that it's going to take the point of view from Joe Exotic's standpoint. Yeah,
that's interesting. I'm starting to really love Kate McKinnon, by the way. Like, she's really grown on me. When I first saw her in a few projects, I wasn't really into her because like she goes really over the top sometimes. Yeah. But she's like, yeah, real zany. But she's grown on me a lot, and I've actually been watching a lot of the back catalog of SNL, and I'm loving her in that. And then I think she's been doing a few more dramatic roles lately, like even Bombshell recently. And I don't know, she's really grown on me as an actress. So I'm double sold.
Solid.
Yeah, and
she's solid.
I can't fucking wait to find out who plays Joe Exotic. Oh my god, I know who it's. Okay, I'm gonna call it right now. Danny McBride.
Okay, you can go Danny McBride because that fits really well. I'm gonna go Sam Rockwell. I reckon Sam Rockwell could pull that off in a heartbeat, dude. Dramatic and comedy, he can do it. He can do whatever.
Very different picks from both of us.
No, absolutely.
Yeah.
only because I think Sam Rockwell is one of the greatest actors alive today. Like, you know, he's just fucking, he's awesome, dude.
Do you think? Let's speculate real quick. When they make a movie like that, based off the little information we know, do you think they'd go more a comedic route, or do you think they'll go more a dramatic route? And do you think it'll be more comedic or dramatic?
I think you do what Adam McKay did with Vice. I actually think you get Adam McKay to direct.
Okay, I'm on board.
I think the comedy and drama balance in Vice and The Big Short is perfect for Tiger King. And it's very. I mean, like, he's got a very good eye for satire. So I think there's a lot of satire in. I mean, like, a potential to do a satire in Tiger King. So I think that's my pick. What about you?
I actually don't fucking know. Like, I think comedy would be very
Dude, you
easy.
can't dish out the question and be like,
I don't know. I don't know because I'm actually trying to figure it out. That's why I did it. I think it might be like maybe go comedy drama, like sort of similar to Big Short, like maybe like Wolf of Wall Street route, which is kind of the same direction. Anyways, but
you want to get Marty to direct this?
Maybe not Marty. Not Marty. Not me. But you know that approach. Dude, if he wants to do it, like, I'll fucking watch it. But like with Kate, like, obviously, like in the past, like, it's going to be comedy, but like she's meant to be Cheetah in Wonder Woman 1984, right? So like, I'm just thinking already. It's like,
really?
Wait, isn't she?
No, it's Kirsten Wiig.
Oh fuck,
Kristen Wiig. Sorry,
wrong name starting with K. My bad.
Wrong Ghostbuster.
Wrong Ghostbuster. Wrong actress with a K. So I'm just going to assume it's going to be there will be a comedic element to it. I think it'll be very hard to have not have comedy in it when we have a character like Joe Exotic, but I'm just wondering if this is going to be like going for the Oscar type film.
Yeah,
have they announced writers or directors? Do you know?
No, they haven't announced anything at all. Like, other than Kate McKinnon as Carol Baskin, which is strange. Which is like a weird, like, first thing to announce for your movie, but
yeah, and especially if she's not going to be the main character. Like,
I mean,
but maybe she will. Yeah. Also, I'm just realizing something now. Something very similar happened with the Ted Bundy stuff. It's like the whole idea of releasing a documentary first to get the public aware of him, then you come out with your big feature film. I'm starting to realize I think that's starting to become a bit of a tactic for these true stories, and I'm all for it. Because you're going to get me more excited for your movie that way. So fuck yeah.
Well, I mean, the thing about the Bundy one was interesting because that docuseries was also directed by the filmmaker of who did the film.
I've never seen that before either. That's
but it's like,
which I think that led to some weird choices in the film. Like, the director clearly was a fan of Ted Bundy, so he put him in the best possible
If
light.
you finish a miniseries or a docuseries about someone and you dedicated so much time to him, wouldn't you just want to be done, dude? Like, I just want to be done.
Dude, from my limited experience with editing documentary content, I fucking hate it because unlike like a narrative story or there's no finish line. Like, you got to figure out where the finish line is. You got to sort through hours of footage, so much shit. Like, I guess in the way that the editor is basically the co-director in a way, but it must be so much fucking work. Like, I believe Tiger King took them like 5 years to make. I'm pretty sure they mentioned in the first episode. So like, imagine if them for example spent 5 years making this and then did a feature. Like, you'd be very qualified for it. You know the characters, but you'd fucking hate it. Like, it'd be such a commitment.
Yeah, absolutely.
But switch around, I guess. Overall, just for fun, I know it's not a proper review, but if you had to give Tiger King something out of 10, what would you give it?
I'd probably give it an 8. I mean, only because I do think it goes on for a bit long, and I'm not really that, I guess, 100% engaged with this subject matter. I mean, I get it. They're fucking weird and zany and weird people and crazy people. Like, I get it. You know, like, by the end of it, you're just like, fuck, this is a crazy case full of crazy characters. But by the end of it, like, that is kind of like beaten into your head, senseless, over 7 episodes, and I'm just like,
Yeah.
ugh. I much prefer the shorter, like, docuseries, like Evil Genius or Don't fuck with cats. But yeah, I mean, I'd probably give it an 8.
Sweet.
Yeah. And you can't give yours yet because you haven't finished it, right?
Like, I wouldn't be fair for me to do it, but
I'm not asking you to. I'm just.
I wouldn't go that based on so far. I would not go that high. I'd probably do like 6 or 7. Like, it's not bad, but yeah, I also think it's
you do have to remember this is more my kind of stuff. I mean, like
it
this
is.
I'm more in the docu series than you are, I think.
Yeah, you probably are. I do enjoy docos though, but it's very dependent on the subject matter for me. Like, for me, I'll literally watch any fucking movie you put in front of me. Because if I can't appreciate it for how good it is, I can appreciate it for the filmmaking. So even bad movies are entertaining for me because I can go to myself, I wonder why they did that, you know? And I find, like, so I can appreciate that. But with documentary, that is not a factor for me.
Right,
I have to be into and I find it really hard to review documentaries. So I especially series, I think the harder to review series than films as well, because I think like from season to season it can change, and if you're watching it week by week, that's a whole other thing. Yeah, but what I do want to say though is my favorite thing about Netflix and how they release shows like this in one go is that it gets people talking, and I love that because that's the best part about Breaking Bad and Game of Thrones to me, is that every week people would talk, and I love that element of television. It's my favorite thing about TV. Not so much watching the show sometimes, it's about talking about it with people and being like, what do you think's going to happen next episode? And I know that's not always going to happen with Netflix stuff, so I like how when that comes out once, we can talk about it like this. So I always find that really exciting.
Yeah, so no, absolutely. Like I agree. I mean, like it's all over the interwebs right now. So I mean, like, look, and Midnight Double Feature isn't really one to bury the lead. Like we're always gonna jump on opportunities like this, you know. It's like the internet's talking about it, let's fucking talk about it, you know. So
yes, I love it
for sure.
I think it's time we talk reviews.
Yeah, let's get into it.
Let's get into the reviews. I'll kick things off with Spenser Confidential, which is also on Netflix.
What do you say, Spence?
Not much.
How's it feel getting out?
We have a little going away message for you.
For me?
Give him hell, Spencer.
So before I get into, you started this film and you didn't finish it. Is that correct?
Yeah, but that wasn't really an indictment on the quality of the film. It was more of a I had some shit to do and I just never picked it back up again. Like I actually didn't mind the first like 15 minutes of this movie. I really didn't.
Yeah. I can relate to that. So full disclosure, this doesn't normally happen with the way I review films, but it took me about 4 attempts to get through the whole thing. Because I think anyone watching this film would agree with me. It's a good film. It just really lacks the hooks to drag you in. And I remember looking at the trailer before it came out and thinking, this looks pretty cool. And I guess it's kind of cool, but let me just get straight into this. Okay,
yeah,
so
just talk to me about it.
Let's just get into it. So first of all, the cast is pretty great for a film like this. You got Mark Wahlberg. You got for his name, but he played M'Baku in
Winston Duke.
Winston Duke, yeah, he's great. Mark Maron has a small part. Post Malone's in a couple scenes. Yep. And then who I want to highlight is a comedian who is quickly becoming, if not already became, my favorite female comedian. Who I'm fucking blanking on right now. Oh my god,
Eliza
Schlesinger. Yeah. She's great. She's really great. She's got a few specials on Netflix. Highly recommend you check her out. She's really funny.
She's been on Rogan, I think.
She has very recently, actually. But she's very not herself in this. She's putting on an accent, and they don't really use her to her strengths. And they also have Mark Maron, who, you know, everyone knows from WTF podcast and big comedian from Glow, and he's not really being used to his strengths either. Like, for example, with Eliza, she's putting on a Boston accent and she kind of plays this angry housewife who's always mad. And I'm just like, ooh, I really wish they used you for what you're best at. She's not doing a bad job. It's just, I feel like anyone could have played that role. So I was a little bit disappointed because I'd love to see her in like a major film role where she could just flex her normal skills. My biggest problem with this film is the directing, especially the way they do like the tone. This movie, it's like a, typical Mark Wahlberg film. It's in Boston. There's corrupt cops. There's a little mystery going on. And then they come and they keep trying to bring in this comedy element to it, and almost all the jokes fall flat. And it's like the way it's the people are giving the jokes, they're not selling it like a joke. The music isn't supporting it. And that leads me to my next biggest criticism, probably my biggest of the whole film, is the way they do fight scenes and use music. Most of the fight scenes in this film will have some like happy rock and roll radio friendly song where it's meant to be like, oh, it's a fun time while they fight. But because they do that for almost every single fight scene except for like near the end, there's no stakes because like the music is telling you, oh, this is kind of fun. And I get it. Guardians of the Galaxy did it a couple times, so everybody else wants to do that now and shit. But it's like, if I'm not scared for the character's like life, then why should I give a fuck about the fight scene? And you can't do that for everything. So yeah, I feel like the cast isn't like fully used greatly for the most part. There's also a dynamic between Mark Wahlberg's character, Winston Duke's character, and some old guy named Henry. They live together.
Dude, that's Alan Arkin, dude. He's a fucking legend. Don't you say he's some old guy, all right?
Really? I don't recognize him. Where would I know him from?
Argo? Have you seen Argo?
Actually, I haven't. Although
you haven't seen Argo?
I actually haven't. And I know
Little
that's a
Miss
crime
Sunshine,
against humanity.
Edward Scissorhands, Kaminsky Method. Fuck.
Yeah, I've seen a couple of those. Yeah.
I guess The Incredible Burt Wonderstone.
Dude, I remember that movie. Fuck.
Yeah.
I barely remember that movie. No one fully remembers it.
No one remembers. That's a movie.
Technically, yes. So basically, this movie is very forgettable. Much like The Incredible Burt Wonderstone, a lot of the action doesn't play out well for me, and the typical like murder mystery thing going on, it does nothing special. And it just really stops me from getting there. It's a decent watch if you've got nothing better to do and this is your type of film. It's the type of movie you'd expect Jared Butler to star in. That would go direct to DVD, which isn't a knock at Jared Butler. I do like him, but dude, you got to be in some better movies.
He's not a good actor. I'm sorry.
I like him. I just want him to be in better films.
Tell me. Don't say you like him. Tell me why you like him. Get back there.
Because he yelled really loud in 300, and I enjoyed that.
There you go.
Oh my god, what is he? And yeah. Anyways, I'm gonna give this a 4 out of 10. Usually, if a movie is incredibly average, it's a 5 for me. But what's your biggest rule, Zoheb?
Don't be boring.
Don't be boring. And it took me 4 attempts to watch it. So I think that says something. So that knocks it down a peg. So I'm giving it a 4 out of 10.
Matthew, what if I told you that this movie was directed by the same guy who did Mile 22?
Well, I'd actually applaud him and high-five him because it's a massive step up. Because Mile 22 is probably the worst film I've seen in my life.
Well, I mean, look, man, Peter Berg is a good director. I don't know why he's like making these choices lately. Like, I mean, look, man, he did The Rundown. I mean, Welcome to the Jungle.
Love The Rundown.
Yeah, he did Friday Night Lights, The Kingdom, Hancock, which was so-so. Battleship, which wasn't that great, but kind of entertaining. Lone Survivor, which I fucking love, dude, with Mark Wahlberg. Lone Survivor. A Deepwater Horizon, really damn good. Patriots Day, you know how much I love Patriots Day. And then it just goes kind of downhill for Mile 22, then Spenser Confidential.
I honestly just think a movie like this for them it's a quick payday because there's not a lot of different locations. They probably can knock it out in 2 weeks of shooting. And once they got him and Mark Wahlberg on, anyone else will jump on the project, which means you can get a few big names on board or a few recognizable names, which means it'll probably make its money back pretty quickly or pretty well. And that's what I'm guessing. I feel like this is like, they don't feel like they have to try too hard for this. I feel like if I was saying this to their face, I'd feel really bad because it sounds really mean, but either that or they'd agree with me because, I refuse to believe Mark Wahlberg of all actors was sitting there like, fuck yeah, I can't wait to film Spenser Confidential. This is going to be the biggest thing I've ever done.
I think it's just he really likes working with Peter Berg. Like he
likes working with Peter Berg. He likes shooting in Boston. It's a good time. Like it's probably fun for him.
He's a Boston
and I can't
native.
knock that.
Yeah.
There you go.
So there you go. 4 out of 10. Interesting.
Yeah. I think next up, let's talk about a movie we both saw. Let's talk about Bloodshot.
And initiate sequence.
gospel is.
I'm sorry to be the one to tell you this, but you got yourself killed. At RST, we rebuild the most important assets in the U.S. military. Soldiers like yourself. You're the first who we've successfully managed to bring back, but improved, enhanced. With the technology in your veins, you have an army inside you that will not only make you stronger, it will heal you instantly.
Holy shit.
Now tell me, do you remember anything?
So Zoheb, you saw this a while ago. I saw it about a week ago. You might have seen this, like a month ago almost?
Yeah, I'd say, like, I think I watched it on, like, release day. only because I had nothing to do.
Do you remember enough to go first, or should I go first?
No, I'm fine to go first, man. All right, so Bloodshot, this is a problematic movie. This is a problematic movie, dude. I mean, look, it's got... I don't even know where to start.
I'll say this.
Vin Diesel is garbage. I'm sorry. I'm just gonna. He's fucking shit. He's so shit, dude. Like, it looks like It looks like I just went to a lumber yard and like one of the pieces of wood just started talking, dude. I swear to God, he looks bad.
Like he looks like a trunk tree fucked a frog.
Yes.
And I don't understand how your forearms can be so muscular and you still have a double chin. Like we're two chubby boys, so we can't talk. But like, there's something not right.
Bitch, did you just call me fat?
I said we're both chubby, okay? But I'm just saying, when you look at Vin Diesel, it's like they face swapped another person with like a tree trunk because his neck is just. It is not sitting right. I'm sorry to bully you, Vin. I'm really sorry.
Vin Diesel continues to. He just fascinates me. Like
he's very interesting.
I don't know why. Okay, look up on YouTube. Vin Diesel. Like type in Vin Diesel interview.
I know exactly what you're gonna talk.
Triple X Return of Xander Cage. Like this is the one that you want. He's just hitting.
Is this the one where he's with a girl and he's like,
he's just hitting on
her?
You
beautiful? You're beautiful.
Oh.
Did I wake up in beautiful world?
Oh my God, it's so cringy, dude. It's so.
Like, if you think that's bad, have you seen him singing? I think it's Destiny's Child, like doing karaoke. There's a video of him at home and he's like singing. I think it's Beyonce or Destiny's Child or some shit, and he's so into it. And it's like, you're not that good. Side note for Vin Diesel. You know what he announced the other week? He's got an album coming out.
Oh,
he's gonna have a musical album.
Excuse
me?
Vin
Diesel. Yes. Sex Panther extraordinaire Vin Diesel has an album. No, that's not what it's called. I'm just saying he's a Sex Panther. No, but yeah, I know there's like some EDM song that came out not long ago where he talks on it, but I think he's got a full album coming out, from my understanding, which is a whole other thing.
You want to hear something crazy?
Oh, please. I can't wait to hear this.
Vin Diesel's real name is Vin Diesel.
I heard this the other day. Lay it on for the listeners.
Vin Diesel's real name is Mark Sinclair.
Oh! So what I want to know is, did he change to Vin Diesel before or after Fast and the Furious?
Before. He was already Vin Diesel. I remember that.
Which makes no sense because, like, what are the chances where it's like that happened? Then he gets in Fast and Furious. He puts out Wheelman. He has his entire
that's why he does
career.
all the car movies, dude. Like, can you imagine? He's like, I hate cars. Like, this whole time, he's just like, I fucking hate cars.
Well,
and I keep getting all these car movies.
I have a feeling he's not that into cars. I really do. Because you never see him talking about doing up his cars. You never see photos of him with cars. Paul Walker, yes. Vin Diesel, never seen him in a photo with a car outside of a promotional thing for Fast and the Furious. He's a nerd. You gotta remember, he's a nerd, bro. He plays Dungeons and Dragons, he has so much stuff where he's connected to Dungeons and Dragons. He owns his own video game company.
Comic books.
He's done so much nerdy shit.
Guardians, right? Yeah.
Yeah, like he's probably got more in common with us than he does that with like some like Dwayne Johnson or anyone else at the fucking gym. You know?
He weirds me out. He just weirds me out, dude.
We are meant to talk about the movie though.
Yeah, let me talk about the movie. Let me talk about Bloodshot. This movie's okay. You know what? It's problematic, very problematic, but I found myself weirdly entertained. This movie's directed by a guy named David S.F. Wilson. This is, I think, his first movie. The script is garbage, right? It's written by the guy who directed Kick-Ass 2, so maybe that will tell you something. It's I mean, some of the effects are good at points, and some of them are awful. Like in the bottom half of the film, it's like they just lost all their money, and they're just like, all right, guys, kids here, interns, what do you have for us? What are you whipped up for us here in these computer boxes, whatever?
Yeah. I think the biggest offender is, and it's in all the trailers too, but when he's in that like weird elevator shaft fighting that guy with like the Dr. Octopus arms, it's clearly not him. It's a 3D model of him. And these are the type of special effects you'd see in something like a CW show like The Flash, where you give it a pass because it's like, oh, it's a half-hour show on cable network in America. Fair enough. But when it's like a multi-million-dollar feature film, it's like, why just put it at nighttime? Why is it in the daylight where I can see every fucking pixel on this shit? But when they do like the blood shit and the robot stuff and the face reconstruction, that actually looks pretty good.
Yeah. I mean, like, I wish they were smarter in the way they utilized computer effects, because, man, like, I mean, like the stuff, like, literally, I was waiting for that one moment in the tunnel when, like, all the flower. By the way, that flower scene, fucking awesome. That whole flower scene with the.
What flower scene?
It's all red, and like, the truck, like, with the flower tips over and there's all flour everywhere, so it looks like dust. And there's just red lights, and it looks like, visually it looks awesome, dude. Like, I was really, really impressed with the way they pulled that off. And the way that he's kind of like stalking them and stuff like that. I really, really enjoyed that. And then, like, I was really waiting for, the fucking bullet to the face, and it came, and I was like, yes, that looks awesome. And,
I just wish the movie had more of that,
Yeah, I wish it had more of that. And the story is actually quite interesting, but the thing is, we've seen this before. This is RoboCop. Like I said this during the trailer, like when we talked about the trailer a while back, this is RoboCop. He's literally, it's his creator who's the bad guy. I mean, if you cast Guy Pearce in a movie, he's going to be the villain. Like, there's just no getting around that. Like, it's just going to be a thing. And like, Guy Pearce is awesome, dude. I love Guy Pearce, but this is just a weird choice for him. Like, I'm just like, Guy, what are you doing, dude? Like, why are you here? The female lead, oh god, she's just so beautiful. Isa Gonzalez is her name. There's not really much here, dude. Like, there's not much meat to chew on. I wouldn't choose this as a feature presentation if it was the last film on Earth. Like, because there's, like, whenever I come, like, when it comes my time to choose a feature presentation, I always, like, look for movies where you can kind of have a conversation around them, whether they, if they present, like, some deep themes and, like, deeper meanings, or if they're fun and, like, explain why they're fun. I can't really explain why this is fun. I think it's just because at points, it knows exactly what it is, and it doesn't take itself too seriously, in the vein of Fast and Furious. But at the same time, sometimes it does take itself too seriously, and it's like, okay, this is a little, like, I know what's coming around the corner, story-wise, and I'm not interested, and the film is going to think that I am interested, and that's a misstep, So, I would recommend this movie, but probably, like, on a Sunday, rainy day. I don't think it's as awful as everyone's making it out to be. It's got a pretty shitty score on Rotten Tomatoes. I don't think it's deserving.
It's definitely not a bad movie, I would say.
It's not a bad movie, but it's not good either. It's somewhere in the middle. It's forgettable, like 100% forgettable. I don't think I will remember this movie in a year. Like, I'd probably give it a 5 out of 5. If anything, there's really not that much here, to be honest. And look, at an hour and a half, it knows exactly what it is, like, in terms of, like, runtime.
Yeah. So I'm a little bit more positive, not by a lot though. I went in kind of expecting it to be pretty bad, and there were moments where it actually surprised me. So that really gets a stock up. I'd say the biggest thing I can praise this movie for is, so there's a twist that is coming. One, they give it away in the trailer, but excuse me, I was really surprised with how they executed the twist, with, like, him sort of finding out everything and going back for revenge. I actually thought they did it really well, and even though it was such a very obvious concept and we all saw it coming, the execution was really, I thought, was pretty good. And that's the only big positive I'll give the script because I have some other issues. But that like immediately I was like, oh, this isn't that bad. This is kind of cool. They did this kind of well, which I didn't expect to say. As for the rest of it, oh boy. I thought this was going to be very more like Groundhog Day, so I was already groaning. The fact that they didn't hammer that down too hard, I liked. But the motivation behind the villains is fucking garbage, or as the French would say, garbage. Because
I don't remember it.
Oh man, what it is like they're like, oh, well, not the motivations, but the way they execute it. Because like, okay, we're gonna change the way.
Oh yeah, hold on.
It's
it was
so
like
dumb.
These guys,
they're like, we're
these
gonna
guys
change
left
the
this
one who
company.
killed your wife. Yeah, like we're gonna kill the way you. There's that, but also we're gonna change who killed your wife, so you want to go out and kill them, and then we're gonna have a whole script to follow where we pretend we don't want you to kill them, and then you kill them. It's like, just make him a guy who kills people. Like that's all you need. But like, no, but like, there's no better killer than someone who's out for revenge. Like, yes, there is.
I don't
a trained
mind that.
killer who's doing his job.
I don't mind that because he's got like they give him a specific target in that way, like you know.
Yeah, but just give him a target, brainwash and make him kill it. I just don't think that like they're creating themselves. They give themselves so much extra steps when they could have just like reprogrammed his brain. Like, oh, he thinks he's in control, but he's not in control because I want to go for a RoboCop thing. Or he thinks he's in control, but he's not in control. Just make him not be in control. Make him kill people. You've already given him superpowers, right? He's already better than an average like killer. That should be enough. Like the added revenge element does not make him a better killer. If anything, it makes him more emotional. It probably makes him less of a good killer. So I just think that entire part was fucking stupid. And when I realized, like, when they started like saying that shit, I'm like, oh, this is fucking dumb. This is one of the dumbest things I've seen in a plot in a while. Like, I thought it was pretty fucking stupid personally. I did like seeing, I forget his name, but there's a guy from New Girl, but he's putting on like an English accent in this. He was kind of alright. I think the visual effects, for the exception of that end fight scene, are pretty good, to be honest. It's only that end scene where I'm like, this is kind of crappy. Everything else is pretty good, and there's some cool visuals in there. Like you mentioned, that it's lighting. I thought that was cool. I thought, you know, my problem with both Vin Diesel and Dwayne Johnson is when it's their film, you can tell their influence on it, because you get moments like the end with the sunset. I'm like, oh, it's the end of a Fast and Furious movie. Like those little things. I'm getting sick of seeing like the same imagery over and over again. But yeah, this plot, the film just plays it so safe, and that's the reason why it's not boring, is because it just keeps doing what we've all seen before. It's a very similar plot structure and even like color tone to something like Venom. We've seen a lot of this before. I'm gonna give it a 6. Yeah, I'm gonna give it a 6. It's not as bad as it could have been, but there's a lot. It's just so fucking safe, and there's not enough action in this action movie for me. It's like, if they just get like that end fight scene, if you just give me one more of those in the middle, you could have won me over maybe. But yeah, this film's nothing to write home about. I'm giving it a 6 out of 10.
Yeah, it was problematic.
Yeah, and it's a thing though. I'm gonna say I'm probably not gonna forget it, because some of those visuals did stick with me. Especially when we got all grey skinned. I wish he was like that for most of the film. Like, you're a superhero movie, just fucking commit to it. Because once he did get grey skin, like, it was like, oh, cool, a big showdown, and then it ends. I'm like, oh.
Also,
okay.
Question for you:
Yeah.
Do the police not exist in this world? How? Okay. How is this company able to function and be able to do these kinds of things to these soldiers? Like, do you know what I mean? Like,
it's a great point.
I don't understand. I don't understand these kinds of movies.
That's the problem with a lot of superhero films. Like, even look at fucking Marvel movies, right?
Yeah,
like,
but
some of them, they'll take off the planet and shit, which they bring up in stuff like fucking Avengers. You see them. You know what? No. I take that back.
I don't think so.
At least in
so.
Infinity
Not
War, you
this
see them in the
bad.
background. You see them in the background of Infinity War trying to keep people away. But yeah, this movie's trying to be semi-grounded in reality, and they're all talking about their corporation and stuff. It's like, okay, sort out the fucking laws you're supposed to follow. On that point too, you just got me realizing this. Where are the other employees at this company? There's only like 4 people there, and they're all in the same room.
Giant tower. Like, where? Like, what is Do you own this
Yeah.
building or do you own this floor?
It's just an empty, abandoned building, and with just like one room full decked out. It's like we spend all the budget on this room, but you know, if you want an empty room to play handball in, you can just go down to level 42.
Yeah, but it's like who's Guy Pearce? Like, why do you have so much money? Like, why do you have all this like intelligence?
Unchecked power.
Yeah,
Like
dude. Literally
if Mark Zuckerberg
unregulated
was going to do
power.
this, if Mark Zuckerberg did anything, even like a tenth of this, he'd be in Congress the next day, like, Senator, we sell ads, all that bullshit again.
Yeah, he'll be looking like the Lizard Man again. But yeah, man, like, totally forgettable. But look, let's move on, dude. Let's talk about. You're talking about. What are you talking about? The platform on Netflix.
There are three kinds of people: the ones above, the ones below, and the ones who fall.
So this is,
The pit. Bingo.
Mr. Chimagasi, do you know how this all works?
It's obvious. We must eat
What will it be?
whatever the ones above don't want.
So I quickly watched this movie last night, thinking you had already seen it, and I'm bummed, dude, because I think this movie is semi up your alley. It is a Spanish film, actually. At first, I was like watching it, thinking, "Oh, the voice isn't matching the lips. What's going on? Have I got a weird stream of it?" And I was like, "No, it's fucking dubbed, you idiot." It's a really interesting concept. I like to describe it as Snowpiercer meets maybe the Joker or Joker. What the concept is it's a dystopian prison.
It's class warfare, right?
Sort of. It's more about distribution of wealth, and I wouldn't say it's warfare, but it is about classism for sure. So basically, yeah, there's like a bunch of like layers of this prison. They don't know how many there are. You later find out, and there's 2 people per floor. And what happens at the top is that there's enough food put on this platform to feed everybody. And it goes down. It goes to each level for 2 minutes each, and it goes down again. But what happens is people don't want to share. They want to have as much as they can. And so by the time you reach like level 50, there's no more food left for anybody. And so a lot of people go crazy down there. They fight each other. They kill each other. They eat each other. And all this other stuff there. And so it's very, it has a lot to say. In fact, sometimes some people would argue it's probably getting a bit too preachy at times. I think it's actually okay because they do it in an entertaining way, which makes sense within the context of what's going on. There's only like one moment where they mention something where they say communist, but most of it's the system's basically capitalism. And then they explore like different concepts and theories within the system. Like, so one thing that is different to reality, what happens here is every month they change levels to a random level. So you might end up on like level 6 where you get lots of food, or you could end up on level 100 where you're probably going to have to like eat your partner or something. And the people up top who control the system, they don't care or police anything. The only thing they police is if you try and keep food, which doesn't like for more than 2 minutes. That's all they care about. So it's very much about classism. And as it gets towards the end, so it's a really interesting concept. It's very basic. Then if you start to nitpick it, you do start finding a lot of flaws. And I actually like the film. It does an engaging way. It's got good pacing. I like the tone of it all. And I love like these highbrow sort of concepts, but all my problems come to the ending. And this is running into some slight spoilers. I'm not going to reveal the ending, but I will talk about like the third act. So eventually they sort of go into like socialism, where these 2 guys, they decide, okay, we are going to force people to share. We're going to give them we're going to jump on the platform and give people different rations. And that way we can prevent everyone from dying. And if we can do this the way that show people at the top that the system can work, then maybe we can all get along. And so they have to fight people, and they go, okay. And it's sort of going like the themes of socialism and stuff like that. And sometimes communism. What's also really interesting is like people try and get up, climb the ladder, and no one's willing to help each other out because everyone who's above them just looks down at people below. And if you try and talk to people below you, they will like, oh, well, you treat us like shit, so we don't trust you. That's a really good look on how like classes work. But as it goes on, it starts delving into other ideas and like what really falls apart for me is the way that they try and end it with like trying to send a message to people up top, by introducing a character who you've told doesn't exist, and then they sort of do exist, and then it sort of just falls apart for me. And my biggest problem with this film is with its ending, as my same problem with Joker, where it's like you've spent the entire film explaining this is how things are like, and then they don't do anything with it. They just go, this is what it's like, and they sort of come up with an idea to go, maybe this will get a solution, and they don't actually do anything with it. And I just really get annoyed when I see a piece of art that wants to make that acts like it wants to make a statement, and then what it does is it just doesn't give you a solution or an idea. It just goes, this is how it is. And it's like, bitch, I'm living in this world too. I know what it's like. Tell me what to do. And like, they don't have anything to say with that. This gets like, they start hinting at stuff, but they don't actually do anything with it. And the ending comes really abruptly. I was talking to a friend who also had the same experience, and through some reading and like looking online, like the ending explained type thing, the director apparently had a different ending that they cut out, but they decided to leave it really open to interpretation, and you have you guessing what happens next. But I don't like that. It feels like an incomplete film to me. I'm okay if you want to leave something open to interpretation.
Yeah, I like ambiguous stuff.
Well, I'm okay if I have to figure it, like something like I don't like though when I have to guess what happens next for the most part, because then it just feels like the story hasn't ended. And I kind of got a bit of that. Like there is some like metaphors at the end. Like there's a thing like, did a character die or didn't they? I'm okay with stuff like that. But like when you're like trying to give me a message and you don't give it to me, you don't properly give me the message, like what you want me to know from you, like that annoys me. I think it's often from films who think they're smarter than they actually are. Because I think if you're so fucking smart, you'd have something, you'd have more to say. But that's just me personally. This film really does feel like someone just got a little high while in this fucking sociology class or something, or a political, socioeconomic, whatever bullshit, and just was like, and they just wrote up something. It's a cool concept. I do think the concept of this movie is really cool, and it is a little bit stylish, and it is entertaining. I would watch it again. And the actors, they do a pretty good job, and I think the production design's really good. I'm actually going to give this a 7 out of 10, but I think if I just liked the ending a bit more, I could have gone a lot higher. And I think maybe the one good thing about the ending of this film is it will get people talking about how they interpret things. But I think it's going to solve any issues it has.
Cool.
But yeah, Zoheb, if you ever get a chance, check it out. Let me know what you think of the ending, because I've left some stuff out on purpose. Because I don't want to ruin it for you.
Yeah, look, I might check it out. I mean, if I get some time. I don't know, man. I mean, like, it wasn't really, I mean, you know, when it came out, like, I did hear some buzz about it. And then, like, I don't know, that stuff kind of dissipated because I watched the entire season of Tiger King. So I was like, all right, I've got my thing to watch for the weekend. And yeah. But I mean, look, we are stuck in quarantine. So here we go. Yeah.
What I will say is this movie, you do feel how low budget it is. Like, it does feel low budget. But what's good about this film is like it makes it work to its advantage. Like the concept works for that. It's not like it's trying to be something it's not, or trying to be more than what it is. So like,
it's not as good as Snowpiercer though, is it?
I definitely like Snowpiercer more. But what I will say is the messaging behind the two is very different. Snowpiercer is more about let's go fuck up the people at the power, at the top, because they've treated
revolution
shit for so long. Yeah. It's like a revolution. This is not a revolution. It's more like the way the system is wrong. It's built so everyone can survive, but if they were willing to work together, but no one is willing to work together, and they kind of just end on that. Like they try and go against that in the film, and it doesn't really work fully. So, and they kind of just end there. I'm like, fuck, man. I wish we knew it was gonna, like, you know. Like, if you're going to give me the problem, give me a solution, I feel. But yeah, I like Snowpiercer more, but Snowpiercer is also more fantastical than this. This is...
Yeah, it is.
A little more grounded. Yeah.
Cool. All right, awesome. So that's the platform, guys. Platform on Netflix. Yeah, all right. Well, look, dude, without any further ado, how about we get into our MDF game for the week?
Oh, fuck yeah. MDF game. Do we have a theme song for the MDF game?
No, we don't.
I feel like we should. I'm going to come up with one now, okay?
Go. That's our current theme song, bitch.
Wait,
You just spelt it wrong.
Fuck. No, it's different. It's not MDF. It's
shit.
MFMDFG. It's motherfucking Midnight Double Feature game. It's fuck. I'll come up with something one day.
All right. Okay, so it was your choice of question to ask this week, and the question was a doozy, dude. Might have been the most difficult question I've had to answer yet.
I'm gonna be honest. I don't have any good answers. Like,
I think I have some solid ones. I think I have some solid ones. I've spent some time thinking about this. So the question is, what is your favorite underrated movie? Now, you, as our listeners, you guys have the opportunity to take part in this, in the poll. We always post this poll to go with our MDF game with our upcoming attractions episode. That is in the After Party, our Facebook group. It's called the After Party. We got some great community feedback that we'll get to soon. Matthew, I asked you to give me your top 3 favorite underrated films because I found it pretty difficult. But I mean, we are
Sam,
ranking.
I kind of just have a list here. I don't even know the order of them. But
Okay, but give me
I'll
your
figure something
honorable. Give me your honorable mentions, then give me your third, second, and then first. That's where we're gonna do it. And then before you get to your first, I'll guess your first one. Do you want me to go first? Because I'm a little more organized. Okay.
Well, here's my issue, right? And I think it's worth talking about.
Actually,
It did start in the After Party. There's a big debate over what
Underrated
is
means.
underrated.
But-
Because your belief, and correct me if I'm wrong here.
Wait,
is-
stop. I'll lay this out. Because
Okay.
this is something that I initially put in the poll, but then I took it out. I actually edited it. I had a definition in there before, but then I was like, okay, look, the word underrated is actually quite subjective. I don't want to like constrain it to anything. If you want to go by the definition given by Google, the Google definition is underestimate the extent, value, or importance of something, right? And that's pretty broad. That's pretty wide open.
All right. And when you hear value, you think of box office numbers, right?
People think box office. People think it also says importance, right? Importance might also correlate to box office. So it's pretty,
importance as well is super subjective. Hey,
right, exactly. But in the end, it's if you watch a movie and you think that it should be the status of this movie should be higher than what is, I guess, given, then that's underrated. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, if you
that's what I think too. Yeah,
right, exactly.
And
If
but you know what's crazy though? What I'm realizing only recently is what you think is the perception of other people thinking
Right.
it's good is also subjective because I guess the only metric we could go off is maybe Rotten Tomatoes because they have both a critics thing and a audience score. But like, again, that's just based off people who give a shit about those websites. Like
that's why I think
stuff
box
that
office
you
comes
put on the
into it
list
too.
that I don't think is underrated at all. But then there's some stuff that other people are suggesting. I'm like, I don't know. Like, you know what I mean? Like it's such an interesting thing to think about.
It is super interesting, and that's why I literally sat at the coffee table while I was like putting this together, and I was like, huh. Technically, the Hateful Eight by Quentin Tarantino is a critically acclaimed film, but at the same time, it's not spoken about as much as often as a Quentin Tarantino film is or should be. Everyone always talks about Pulp. Everyone talks about Inglourious. It's not. It is one of those that is kind of quote forgotten, and that is one of the like when I put together my list. The movies I put together were forgotten films, more or less. Interesting.
Like looking even at the list we got here that you've given as like poll stuff. Like I think it's really interesting. Blade Runner 2049. It was all in the news. Like people were all talking about it. It was really relevant for a period of time. I think it got. I don't think it got like a huge buzz critically though. Like I don't really remember. Do you remember?
Critically, it did amazing. It's 87% on Rotten Tomatoes. It did fantastically. But the thing is, that movie's box office was not as good as it should have been. This is
I'm
subjective.
I'm in a weird category where I think it was overhyped a little bit. Like I think it might have been a little bit overrated. If you just want to really fuck shit up,
Yeah, you can fuck off. But no, I'm kidding.
Yeah.
But I mean, like, look, it was budgeted at $185 million and it only made back 260. And a movie starring Ryan Gosling, directed by Denis Villeneuve, with this massive scope. You know, it's a sequel to one of the most beloved science fiction films of all time. I think, 260 is technically it's a flop. Technically,
Let me actually correct myself. I don't think it was overrated, but I just don't think it's super iconic. But maybe that's the curse of trying to be a sequel to something so iconic and successful,
Well, here's the thing. I think, look, I'm not going to spend too much time on Blade Runner 2049. There's a reason that Colin and I haven't covered that yet, and that's because we both fucking love that movie. But I mean, like, I think the general consensus out there is that it's if it's not as good as the original Blade Runner, it's just a notch under. Like by fans of that 2049. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Can we just bring up one more example from this list, that I think might be interesting to talk about? Is Ex Machina? That won an Oscar, didn't it?
It did win an Oscar for Best Special Effects, but again, I just think it's one of those. These are the movies that you're bringing up, not Blade Runner 2049, for example. Whenever I recommend someone who likes science fiction the movie Ex Machina, they're like, "Oh, what's that?" Like, do you know what I mean?
And I think that's what I was going to get at.
That to me is
underrated.
underrated.
I think actually I was originally thinking, man, that's not underrated, but now I'm starting to come back on that because originally, I was like, dude, it won a fucking Oscar. It's rated. But when you think about the consensus of the general public's mindset,
right?
And I think you go, give me great science fiction movies. Not a lot of people know it. And that's probably because of lack of marketing or budget. Like probably the best movie ever made, we've probably never seen, never will see, because it was probably some indie film which was only ever seen by like 100 people at some shitty small film festival. There's a chance of that. Probably not, but there's a chance.
Okay, well, I've got a couple of honorable mentions.
Okay.
So Blade Runner 2049, we already talked about. That was one of my honorable mentions. Technically, look, I did put together this poll, so I guess you can take all of these options as my honorable mentions. Last Action Hero, that was a big honorable mention for me, only because that was a big Arnold Schwarzenegger film that I kind of really enjoyed when I grew up. As I grew up, and then it's also kind of
on that note. Yeah. I think it's worth mentioning Rick Jacinta, I think I'm pronouncing that right. We both had a conversation in the after party about this, about how that movie, like, it was really ahead of its time. Like, it was doing things that are only popular now. And back then, it actually didn't do too well. A lot of people didn't get what Last Action Hero was doing, which was like, kind of being like Scream, but for action movies in a way.
It's an enjoyable movie. And if you do want to listen more about that film, I recommend Hey, Do You Remember? They covered that movie. One of the big criticisms that Chris brought up on that podcast, and I actually agree, is that it's directed by John McTiernan. So essentially, you've hired the guy who directed Die Hard and Predator and Hunt for October. You've hired that guy to kind of like make fun of himself, and it doesn't really come off that well. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
I think his comedic chops as a director weren't super great, but the script had the jokes there. You know what I mean? Like, if you got someone who specialized in comedy more, that could have been like hilarious. But I think the director, because he was kind of doing something that's never been done before in a way, it was really hard to try and juggle the tone, because it's still got to be an action film while also making fun of action films, which is what Scream did perfectly for horror movies. No,
absolutely. I mean, look, like some of these other choices here in the poll, like Hunt for the Wilder People, What We Do in the Shadows, Whiplash, Hugo. These are all movies that I think are underrated, because when I recommend these movies to people, they've never heard of them before, and they are actually fucking masterpieces. Like, they're actually fucking great. So in my opinion, that fulfills the undervalued. If we do want to go by the definition given in Google, that fulfills the definition of undervalued. It's not valued enough. But again, look, I do think that the definition of underrated is 100% subjective. Like, I actually didn't realize how subjective it was until probably putting together this poll. So
actually on that. Oh, sorry. Go on with your honorable mentions.
Oh, okay. Okay. So I have two more. There's a movie called Super. It's directed by James Gunn. It stars Rainn Wilson from The Office. Fantastic film, dude. If you haven't seen it, it's kind of like Kick-Ass. It actually got, I actually think it came out the same year as Kick-Ass. Super did. And the reason why I bring up Kick-Ass is because conceptually it's the same sort of story. It's about this, guy, like everyday Joe Blow who dresses up as a superhero to fight crime, right? It's the same exact shit. But it's funny, man. It's actually hilarious. And it's got James Gunn's kind of like signature style of humor all over it. And it was the movie that I think he directed just before getting Guardians, I believe. So, yeah.
I think it's really interesting because I haven't seen Super, but everyone I know who's seen it is like, you have to see it. It's so fucking great. But not only is it a film you never hear people really talk about, like in the public, like in a mainstream way, but you also don't see like it make underrated film lists, you know?
Right. No, absolutely.
So which makes it even more underrated, I would say.
Absolutely. Look, another big one that kind of flopped at the box office, and no one, people do talk about it in terms of like wanting a sequel, but it's not really getting the love I think it deserves. Is Dread. We talked about this on the podcast as well when we covered Dread ages back. I think it was literally like our 10th episode. The Carl Urban film that came out in 2012 was just astounding to me. I love that film.
I'd like to just mention Dread. I think when it comes to underrated film lists, Dread is almost always on there.
Yeah.
And this is kind of what started the debate a little bit in the after party, is a little bit of me is like, I don't think it's underrated. Like, it's got like close to 80% Rotten Tomatoes. Everyone who sees it loves it. It has a strong cult following, which a cult does mean small. But I think within its small community, it's kind of highly rated. A lot of people have campaigned for a sequel. So I don't know, for me, if I consider that underrated. Like, because again, when I think underrated, I think a rating.
You said the word right there, small community, right? I mean, there's
true.
There's a very small, and it only made it was budgeted at $45 million. It made $41 million. Like, that to me is undervalued. Like,
wasn't it? It was like a low budget film too, wasn't it?
$45 million.
Okay, that's like close to Deadpool. So that's pretty good.
Yeah, $45 million. It was budgeted for, and then it made 41.5. So technically, it was a flop. And I just think that fits the mold of underrated perfectly, right? I mean, yeah. Another one is The Post. The Post is a pretty recent film. Yeah. Directed by Steven Spielberg. It actually just came onto Netflix literally yesterday. That's why I remembered it. I love that film, dude. I love that film. That movie is right up my alley in terms of like conspiracy stories and just how well this movie is told. This story is told with the Pentagon Papers. Again, if I was to look it up, I don't know how much it made versus how much it was made for, but in terms of like how many people talk about it, yes, it was nominated for Best Picture, but in terms of how many people talk about it, I don't hear anyone talking about this movie, and I think this movie should be spoken of. I mean, it's directed by Steven Spielberg, for fuck's sake. It stars Meryl Streep, it stars Tom Hanks, stars Bob Odenkirk, right, from Better Call Saul.
But let me challenge you on that. You wouldn't put this in your top 5 Spielberg, Meryl Streep, or Tom Hanks films, would you?
I think I'd...
That's not saying it's bad, but...
No. I mean, like, but that's not really how I measure, like, the quality of a movie, especially if it's if you're talking about Steven Spielberg or Tom Hanks. Like,
Yeah.
Like, if I was to... If you were giving me... This movie came out in 2017. If you were asking me to put together a top 10 list in 2017, this would be way up there.
Okay, yeah, good point. That's a good point, because I probably would too.
Yeah, absolutely. I made you watch this with me. I was like, Matthew, let's go watch this. All right, let me get to my actual list, right? Counting down from 3. Number 3 is a movie directed by Ben Affleck. It's called Gone Baby Gone. Have you seen this?
I have not.
Again, didn't really look up its box office. I think it's rated pretty well, actually. Like in terms of like critically. It is a 94. Right, so pretty highly rated. Don't know how much. Oh yeah, so 19 million budget and 34 million for box office. So it did pretty well at the box office. The reason why I put it on my list was because, again, no one talks about this movie. Have you heard of this movie?
I have heard of it, but like, I have a film podcast, so I've heard of a lot of it. But so yeah, but like I don't hear people talking about it, especially compared to like Gone Girl, which is also a Ben Affleck related project.
Absolutely. So Gone Baby Gone was the first film that Ben Affleck directed, and I think he knocks this film out of the park, dude. This is such a dark and really well written and really well directed film, and it asks you really morally complicated questions, not once but twice in the film. Like, seriously, if you put yourself in the shoes of like some of the leads of these in this movie, you can honestly get into an argument with someone else who's seen it who might actually have a different viewpoint. And for a movie to do that so successfully and not even like, when I recommend this movie to people, they're just like, what is that? Like, you know what I mean? But I mean, like, that being said, it is a very dark movie. It deals with, child abductions and things like that. So, but it is a movie that I won't hesitate to recommend to people of the true crime of any genre. It's not true crime, sorry. So yeah, number 3 is definitely like Gone Baby Gone, dude. I really, really recommend Gone Baby Gone. Number 2, changing things up a little bit, is Chef, directed by Jon Favreau. Have you seen this?
Mm-hmm. Never even heard of it.
You've never heard of Chef?
But he does have a new Chef Netflix show, doesn't he?
Right. So that's spun off that movie.
Right.
Okay, so what if I told you there was a movie directed by Jon Favreau, starring Jon Favreau, starring Scarlett Johansson, starring Robert Downey Jr., that wasn't called Iron Man?
Okay, I'm listening.
And the very fact that you've never heard of this kind of plays into my underrated argument.
Oh, no, I would say that is a great example of something that's probably underrated. Wait, is it good?
It's 100% good, dude.
Then yeah, definitely. I would say definitely. Yeah.
It feels like a small indie film. It was made for $11 million, so it might be an indie film. I don't know. But the cast of this is outstanding. I just named you 3 A-listers, right? But you got Sofia Vergara from Modern Family, John Leguizamo from, I guess, John Wick, Dustin Hoffman, right? Like, I mean, this movie. This is also a movie like that's just full of heart. I'll give you like the premise of it. So basically, Jon Favreau is the head chef of a restaurant, and basically a critic comes in one day and gives him like a really bad review, and publicly and over social media, he loses his shit at the critic, right? And he kind of gets fired from this restaurant. So he's like, you know what? Fuck this. I'm going to create a food truck. And I'm gonna I'm gonna I guess tour across country, trying to recover, trying to put my mind back together, and also at the same time trying to get in touch with my son because he's also going through a divorce. So it's full of heart, dude. It's full of humor. It's a really, really fantastic film, and I really, really recommend it to anyone. It did really well at the box office, made for $11 million, made $46 million back. So really well done. The Chef TV show on Netflix is the, I guess, kind of spin off from that. It's a different genre. It's a kind of like, like this is how food is made kind of thing instead of like a dramatic, film like this is. So anyone who hasn't seen Chef, really, really highly recommended, dude. Can you guess my number 1 underrated movie of all time?
I feel like there's this. You're gonna have to give me some hints because there's just so much to pick from. I have no clues. Give me. Can I ask 3 questions to narrow it down?
You can ask. Yeah. Okay. Sure.
What is the genre?
Drama.
Does not help.
Well, Chef was a comedy, so I was like, drama.
Is it a Oh, wait, no. So I can think of your favorite films, but like, what would also be considered underrated? What year is it from?
2015, sorry.
Does it star an Oscar-winning actor?
I don't know. I can't really answer that for you right now.
Then it's official. My answer is I don't know.
Well, it's directed by one of my favorite directors of all time. It actually is my favorite film of all time. It's Sicario. Yes, Sicario. So critically acclaimed, really solid box office, right? Made for $30 million and box office is $84.9 million, so nearly tripled its budget. The reason why I'm saying it's underrated is because every time I tell people Sicario is my favorite film, they're like, "What is that about? What is that movie? Never heard of it before."
Right.
Like that, like, yeah. It's kind of astounding how little people have heard of this film.
No, that makes sense because I can't even think of what the poster looks like. So
right, exactly.
There you go.
So, I mean, look, I'm not going to go into it because we will cover this as a feature presentation one day. This is one of my favorite films of all time, dude. Emily Blunt, Benicio del Toro, Josh Brolin. The amount of there is a disconnect between how fantastic and amazing this film is and just how many people have not heard of it that I've recommended this to. Like it's just so disproportionate that it blows me away all the time. Highly could not recommend this movie enough to anyone. Go check out Sicario if you're into, I guess, military films, if you're into cartel films, if you're into suspense. The way Denis Villeneuve pulls off suspense and tension in this film is just, it's a character unto its own. So yeah, I can't sing the praises of Sicario any higher, dude. That is my number one underrated film of all time. Matt, have you got your list together?
I've got something of a list. Yeah, let's go into it. I think what we should have done in hindsight is we probably should have went like you, me, but that's okay.
That's all right. Fuck it.
So this is just stuff. Let me give you just a few honorable mentions first that I think I've got here. I found a lot of my picks are movies that I think people say are bad. And I'm like, it's not that bad. I kind of liked it. A lot of them are that. But so first of all, actually, a great example of that is the Simpsons movie. I think that I don't love that to death.
I love that
it's
film.
Really underrated.
I actually really love that film.
Now you're probably like people going, but Matt, like that was a huge movie, right? But like a lot of people at the time when it came out trashed it. Like especially like not like critics, but like the general public. I think because it was really hyped up. You know, it's coming from one of the most successful shows ever. People expect it to be the funniest film ever made, which is a really like unfair thing to judge it by. But when you look at it now, I think much like the Star Wars prequels, it's grown on people over time. And like you see like people reference it every now and then. And it's like, but you probably hated this movie 10 years ago or whenever it came out. You know? So I think like a lot of people like it. They don't even know they like it in a weird way. So I think that's worth a mention. Upgrade, a very recent film. Whoever sees it does love it, but like no one's fucking heard of that movie.
Upgrade is a good choice, dude. Such a good choice.
Yeah, actually, fuck. I kind of wish that was in my top three.
No, don't you dare. You do this all the time. You do this all the time. You're like, oh, God, the list. Oh. You can't make bad choices.
I love Upgrade so much, though. Yeah,
you can't make big choices.
I'm going to take this one off because I get laughed at if I say that. Here's a bit of a controversial one. I don't love this movie, but I think it got trashed really hard, and I think it's actually pretty decent. Seth MacFarlane's A Million Ways to Die in the West.
You know what? I literally watched that this past weekend again.
Well, I watched it recently too, which is why I brought it up. Like, nice. I think there are a few gags in there which aren't great. I think it opens in it starts off really pretty strongly. Unfunny scene. I think the first scene isn't super strong, but like everything after that, especially for the first half, is so good. Like when he's explaining why the West sucks. That's like one of the best scenes of his career, I would say.
Oh, dude, I just love.
It's got a great cast too.
Yeah, I love the interplay between Giovanni Ribisi and Sarah Silverman, dude. Like those two as a couple. Like she's just constantly getting like banged, and he's just like the nicest person on the planet. And like she's got the semen in her hair. I love it. Yeah,
I think also too what I like about it is I really love the concept of Seth MacFarlane's character. He's kind of from out of time, but they don't bring that up in a way. And like the way that he's able to see things from like the way that he's able to see the West through modern eyes, kind of like that's like the best stuff about Futurama. The way they look at the future, use the future to look down at our times and stuff.
Right.
But I think it's not as bad as people make it out to be.
And I'm gonna just bring something up here. This is it's not a spoiler for the next MDF game because I'm not going to do it anymore because I'm going to talk about it right now and here's my answer. My favorite end credit sequence of all time is in this movie. It's Django. It's fucking Django.
It's pretty great.
Dude, it's Jamie Foxx as Django. Like, what?
It's pretty amazing.
Oh, incredible.
A movie I fucking love and is really hard not to put in my top three that a lot of people don't really like that much. Or I hear conflicting opinions, is Scream 4. I think it's the second best of the franchise. I think it's got some really cool ideas. It's not perfect, but I really love that movie. And a lot of like Scream fans go, like, it's not that good. It's 2's way better. I'm like, no, like this is the second best one in my opinion.
Yeah,
I really like it.
But look, saying it's the second best isn't really a big thing. Like Scream 2 is a massive step down. Like.
Yeah, but like also like the first one is like super iconic. Like it's Like, and for it to become like, I'm not saying it's as good as the first one because it's definitely not, but like to get closer to it, like that's an achievement, you know.
I'm actually really excited for the fifth, the new one. Seeing it's directed by the guys who did
was Ready or Not.
Ready or Not, yeah.
Great idea, because that movie was like the way it was mixing sort of comedy with horror in that movie in such
Really
a
well
great way to do. Like they did it really, blended it really well. I'm just only mentioning this next film because I saw it on another list and I really like it. The Founder.
Good
which
Paul.
is a good point. Like not many people know that movie, and it's like the Social Network for McDonald's. Like it should have been a massive movie. I don't understand why. Maybe McDonald's like sued them or some shit. I don't know. And then here's a big one, because this movie, it was a big film, but I'm gonna go out and say Marvel's The Incredible Hulk. So this movie, a lot of Marvel fans will trash because it's so far away in tone from the others. And I would even say Marvel even seem to go out of their way a lot of the time to distance themselves from it. But I would argue it's a good origin.
You know
film.
why Marvel are doing that, right?
Yeah, because they don't have distribution.
Yeah, because
rights
it's a
to it
Universal
properly.
film.
Yeah. And so, like, I feel like Disney have gone out of the way to try and make us forget about that film at times. But it's pretty good. It's got some cool ideas. I actually love the concept of where he goes to have sex, but he can't get too excited. Like it grounds in this like weird realistic way where you can see how it affects his everyday life, and the fact that he's always just trying to monitor his like stress levels and stuff. Like, I wish they continued that on with the other films and stuff, you know. And I think it's got some really cool ideas. I actually think the design of the Hulk in this one, I kind of like him a bit better than in Avengers. I think this movie does not get its day in the sun amongst a lot of other Marvel films, which are regarded higher than it, which not all of them should be. I'm not saying it's the best Marvel film, don't get me wrong, but it has some really cool shit. In fact, they do a lot of cool stuff in this movie that I wish they did in other films, like that move where he claps his hands to like wind come out and shit. And why isn't he doing that stuff in these other movies? Like, he feels more like the Hulk in this movie than some of the others, I would say. So
I'm going to disagree with you on this one. I don't hate it. I don't love it. I think it's just okay. I only like the reason I only like that movie is because of Tim Roth as the villain. That's it.
That's fair. And like I hesitate to put it on here, but I do think, and if it is underrated, maybe it's not by a lot, because I'm not saying it's great, but I do think it's weird how people who are like Marvel fanboys will even second guess this one when it's clearly better than, like, I don't know, Thor: The Dark World. It's clearly better than, in my opinion, Captain Marvel. It's definitely not the bottom of the list.
Whoa.
I keep
Clearly better?
maybe better. I don't know. Captain Marvel wasn't amazing, I think. I think it was pretty average.
Yeah, but neither is Incredible Hulk. I mean, like, let's not get into
It had
this.
some good action scenes, like when he fights the tanks and shit, that final fight scene in the city. I don't know. Like, I think it's got some like really cool.
I actually really like the music
moments.
in that movie. I mean, the violins.
Oh, right. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I just think it doesn't get a fair shake compared to a lot of other stuff that get more than a fair shake. But I think that's it. Oh, and also just based on the list, Annihilation.
Yeah.
Like I wouldn't. Yeah. Like it's really good. But I think I got to my top 3 now, I think.
Yeah.
Oh, also Good Boys, which came out last year, is the funniest movie I saw in the cinema in ages, and no one fucking saw it. I don't know why. Yeah, okay, but down to my now top 3. I think I'm going to go with, for number 3, one of my favorite films as a teenager, probably the most quotable comedy I can think of, and no one's fucking seen it, I feel. And maybe it hasn't aged as well, I haven't seen it in a while, but Kung Pao Enter the Fist. For those who don't know,
You lost me.
have you heard of it? Do you know of the film?
Nope.
Okay, so what it is what these guys did. They took this bunch of old 70s Chinese martial art films, right? And then they overdubbed them, green screened a new actor into all the scenes, and then overdubbed everything. And it's super quotable. Like, I remember watching it like the 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 10th time, and then noticing jokes I hadn't before because there's so much little things in the background and stuff. Anyone I know who's seen it, like, it's like I can speak another language with them because we can literally have so many anyone who's seen this movie, at least as a teenager or something back when it came out, like can quote this movie word for word. It is amazing, but no one, like most people, it's never in anyone's top comedies. It's never anywhere. And I don't know, it was such an iconic part of my childhood. So I'm really surprised other people don't know it. I think it's really funny. So that's that one, Kung Pao, Enter the Fist.
Oh, it's directed by the guy who did Ace Ventura.
Right? I'm not surprised at all. Like, it's just so weird and kooky, and it's fucking great. And anyone I know who grew up with it at least loves it. I'm just worried. I'm hesitant on saying it now because I haven't seen it in a while, and I'm thinking because it's so immature, maybe I won't like it as much as I did back then. But it still makes the list because, like, I used to cry laughing from it on, like, multiple rewatches.
Nice.
Next up is a very recent film that fucking no one's seen. Searching, which we both saw together.
Yeah, I was just, you know what? That was my next one in the honorable mentions, dude. Fuck, it's a good pull.
Incredible film. Kind of changed my way of looking at how you could do, like, one of these screen recording or found footage type films. Very smartly written, great acting too. Searching, highly recommend it for anyone who's out there seeing it.
First time director as well, Anish Giganti.
Incredible, right? And my next film, my number one pick, yes.
Is it very niche? Am I going to be able to guess it?
It is niche.
Okay. 3 questions. What's his genre?
It's gonna give it away if I say it.
Right, fuck it. Just guess it. Just go.
Scott Pilgrim versus the World.
All right.
What did you think I was going to go for? I feel like you knew it.
I don't know. I feel like no, I didn't know it. I actually didn't know it.
Well, you put it on the list, and I didn't think it was that overrated. But when I think about it, it did really poorly in the box office. Pretty poorly. It's the movie I think that really sold me on Edgar Wright. I still think it's probably the best performance I've seen by Michael Cera. And I just love how innovative it is with mixing like video game references and anime style like camera techniques. And I think it was very revolutionary in a way. And it so speaks to me. Like, you know, when you were like to me the other day, Guns Akimbo, this looks so up your alley, Matt. It's like, yeah, because it reminds me of Scott Pilgrim. I used to love that movie so much. I'll tell you another movie I hear is underrated a lot, which I haven't seen, but I really want to see. Have you heard of a movie called Haywire?
Yeah, I have, with Julianne Moore.
Yeah, and it's got Gina, what's her name?
Carano,
yeah. I just saw a movie of hers the other day, an older one called In the Blood, which is all right, and you got me thinking I could have watched this Haywire movie because I hear it's good.
Sorry, Julianne Moore she's not in that movie. Sorry, that's my fault.
Oh, okay. I'm sure there's a million other films I could think of, which I can't right now. Upgrade probably would have replaced Kung Pao in my top 3 just because it's so fucking good in hindsight. Oh, you know what? I just thought of another 2, right? Real quick. The remakes of both Nightmare on Elm Street and Friday the 13th.
Yeah, I disagree.
They both get,
that's a hard disagree.
They both get trashed, but I think they're both great. I think they're both good modern takes, and I think the fans hate them both because, look, I don't think they're great films, but I think a lot of fans dislike them because they change so much. But what they do is they both reshape the franchise to make it more horror-based. Well, because those two both went very cheesy, and I think they both took really smart moves. I think I have problems with both of them though, and a lot of them comes down to the human characters being pretty forgettable. Actually, incredibly forgettable. But I wish they both got sequels.
Yeah, I mean, look, I only disagree because I saw them kind of sort of recently. Again, sorry. I watched them as they came out, ages ago, like a decade ago, I think. But yeah, I don't. Man, they're just not good. They're just not good. I'm sorry.
I haven't seen them in a while, so maybe they're not as good. But I remember they both got trashed, and I remember both liking them when they came out.
Just quickly before we do move on to the community input, you did. I heard you throw away one just now, and you were like, "I'm going to be laughed at if I bring that one up." So I'm not going to let that go. You're going to bring this up right here, right now. You're on the spot.
I think if I rewatch it, maybe I'll take this back because I've only seen it once. But when I think of movies that are really, really, really trashed hard, you know what? No, it repeats the plot. I take it back. I don't think it's
Matt,
underrated.
Spit it out.
I'll say it, but I was gonna say, and you're gonna laugh at me. Jupiter Ascending, but it was pretty bad. So I just don't think it's as bad as people make it out. Look, the problems with that, my biggest problem with that film, I guess, is they repeat the plot point of trying to save the girl, but had some interesting ideas. And I really just wanted the Wachowskis to have a win back then. And I thought had some cool ideas in there, but it wasn't a good film. You can't forgive the performance by, what's his name? Eddie, what?
Redmayne.
What's his name? Redmayne. Yeah, I was going to go resume or something.
I
really, I'm taking it back. It's not a good film.
It's not a good film. I don't.
Underrated.
Yeah, it's not underrated. It's read perfectly as it is. It's funny actually.
And when you think about the budget they spent on that, like they doubled their they spent double their original budget to make that film, and it came out as such a fucking terrible movie.
Yeah.
You can't call that movie underrated.
It's funny because, I was in LA when that movie came out, and I really, really wanted to go see a movie in the Chinese theater, and the only thing that was playing in the Chinese theater was Jupiter Ascending. So yeah, that was a thing, and I'll never forget that movie because that was my only exposure to the Chinese theater. But yeah.
If I can quickly mention a TV show which is incredibly
go for it,
underrated that I love.
I'm going to bring you up one as well. If we'll move on quickly,
that's
but
cool.
Just very briefly.
Just real quick, one of my favorite TV shows that I've seen that I've never heard. I've never even met another person who's seen it. The League, and obviously I've got major bias there. It's got pretty much the entire cast of Big Mouth, Jason Mantzoukas, Paul Scheer, Nick Kroll. Everybody's in that shit. Fucking the John LeJoie, the E equals C's vagina guy. It's like literally probably one of the funniest TV shows I've ever seen. It ran for I think 7 seasons or something in the States, and I've never met a person who's seen that show. So I just want to give that a shout out. The League.
I've heard of it, haven't seen it, heard good things. My TV show is Hannibal.
Yeah, cancelled season 3
cancelled
randomly.
Yeah.
Hey.
Yeah.
And they fought for season 3, just like Community, which had to really fight to stay on air. Hannibal had to really fight to stay on air as well.
And Hannibal was I talked about it on our latest feature presentation episode, where we talked to Silence of the Lambs. Like Hannibal was a quality show, dude. Like actual quality, But
amazing cinematography.
Amazing, dude. Amazing and amazing performances, especially from Mads Mikkelsen. But dude, let's move on. We got to talk about the poll. The options in the poll, I'll read them out. I'll read them on from ascending to descending. You know what? Let's go descending to ascending. So the movies that I put on there that had no votes at all were Hugo by Martin Scorsese, Assassination of Jesse James by the coward Robert Ford, which I always hear good things about. Zero votes. Ex Machina, 0 votes. Whiplash, 0 votes. What We Do in the Shadows, 0 votes. Hunt for Wilder People, 0 votes. The Babadook, 0 votes. Widows, 0 votes. Mother, 0 votes. And M. Night Shyamalan's The Visit, also at 0 votes. Where the votes start, Danny Fouch is our resident old, World War II film love fanboy. So he put the Big Red one. I have seen the Big Red one a very long time ago, but I remember it being quite, pretty well done. So yeah, Streets of Fire by Walter Hill. That was Jose's pick. Children of Men. That was one of my choices, dude. I put that on the list. That got 1 vote. These are all tied, by the way, as well. Blade Runner 2049 got 1 vote. Hateful Eight got 1 vote. Annihilation and Silence all 1 vote. Yeah, man, I agree. I mean, those are all great films. Sorry, it's not Danny Fouch who voted for the Big Red one. I just want to take that back before he hears this. It's Daniel Lambert. Danny Fouch voted for Silence. So, in third place was Warrior. Have you seen Warrior?
I have not.
Dude, this is one of the choices I put on there. Warrior is an outstanding film. It's directed by Gavin O'Connor, who we were just talking about him a couple episodes back when we talked about The Way Back with Ben Affleck. He directed that film as well. That movie's got Tom Hardy. It's got Joel Edgerton. It actually introduced me to Joel Edgerton, and it might be Tom Hardy's best film. And that is that's a big call, I know. But check out Warrior if you haven't seen it. Definitely underrated. Nobody talks about it. Second place, Scott Pilgrim versus the World. Right, your choice for number 1.
Woo.
And the winner is directed by Pete Travis, 2012, Dread. Dread ran away with this, dude.
Surprise.
I know.
And like I said, it always is in top underrated film lists.
For sure.
So it does have a big following. It is a really good film. I
For
do
sure.
like it.
I'm just going to read one or two comments, seeing as we got so many comments from this. So just a few. Patrick Harrington said, "Oh fuck me, they're all complaining about the definition of the word underrated. You guys can't think of you guys can't think for yourselves, dude. Seriously." Luke Newnham said, "Another hard one to pick. I wanted to be patriotic and pick a Taika film because he's a Kiwi, but Dread was so fucking awesome. Carl Urban is a Kiwi though, so I guess that's still a somewhat patriotic choice." How good. And you know what? Fuck you guys. The rest of the ones are just complaining about the definition, so I'm not even going to go into this. But dude, that was a good MDF game, man. That was one of the best ones we've done, I think. That was a really good choice.
It's fun.
And you know what, guys? Look, I'm just going to kind of wrap it up here. We're all kind of quarantined. We're all isolated. The way you approach this question, and I really, really loved it, is this is kind of like a recommendation of films that people might not have seen or heard of. So if you guys are listening to these episodes and we are like shouting out these movies are worth seeing. While you're sitting at home, while you're working at home, if you have some time on your hands, check out these films. They are absolutely fantastic.
Not Jupiter Ascending though. Not Jupiter Ascending.
No.
Sorry, I said that.
Not Jupiter Ascending. You got Matt's honorable mentions. You got my honorable mentions, and then my top three were Gone Baby Gone, Chef, Sicario. Matt's one was Kung Pao. What was his second pick? It was Searching,
and Scott Pilgrim.
Yeah, for sure. Matt, why don't you wrap us up?
And that's it for this upcoming Tracks episode of Midnight Double Feature. Please, if you're not a part, join the After Party Facebook group. You can hang out with us and you can be a part of the MDF game. Also, make sure you like us on Facebook or follow us on Instagram, follow us on Twitter, and make sure you tell your friends about us. Please leave a 5-star review on iTunes. If you don't like that, if you hate us, let us know on social media. In the meantime, I hope you guys are doing well. We've got a new upcoming feature presentation coming up. Do you know what that is yet, Zohab?
Yes, we do. It's announced. It's Baby Driver.
Woo! Great film. So look for it. Speaking of Scott Pilgrim, same director. So yeah, look forward to that. Until then, I'm Matt. That's Zohab. Catch you later.